Hello everyone, I'm John with JP Strategic Investments, and today I'm going to go over some interesting news for RKT Stock, and that is that their parent company, RHI, just converted a large chunk of their Class D shares to Class A shares and sold them in a private sale. Now, the actual sale of the stock is not a bad thing, and I'll go over why in a minute, but the conversion of the shares and the price at which they were sold could actually help Rocket out, and it explains a lot of the volatile movement on Monday. I'm going to go over exactly what this means, how it happened, and how it could affect the stock going forward. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and with that out of the way, let's dive right in. So just a few hours ago, we had a Form 4 filing from Rocket Companies. A Form 4 filing is a document that a company needs to file whenever there is a change in ownership of shares with insiders. In this case, there were actually 3 Form 4 filings, one for RHI, one for Dan Gilbert, and one for his wife, Jennifer Gilbert. Because Dan Gilbert and his wife have a large ownership stake in RHI, they also have to file a Form 4 because they have indirect ownership of these shares. So let's take a look at the Form 4 for Rock Holdings and see exactly what it says. And by the way, all of these documents are available on Rocket's Investor Relations page, so if you want to go check these out for yourselves, that's where you can find them. Now we can see here that on Monday, March 29th, RHI converted 20.2 million Class D shares to Class A shares and sold them at a price of $24.75 per share. We can also see from the footnotes or the code listed for each transaction what exactly occurred and confirm that it was a Class D to Class A share conversion and there was a sale of the Class A shares. Code 4 states that the reporting person exchanged 20.2 million holding units and the corresponding Class D shares for the same number of Class B common stock. Then Code 5 says that each Class B share was automatically converted to a Class A share immediately prior to the sale. Now, usually when an insider sells a large amount of stock like this, it's not a good sign and the stock can react negatively due to speculation about a lack of confidence in the company. But Dan Gilbert actually notes on the Form 4 the reason for the sale, and it has nothing to do with Rocket Companies. Note 6 here states that the shares were sold in a private transaction and that Dan Gilbert, the largest investor in RHI, plans to use his portion of the proceeds, which by the way is the entire amount, to fund his recently announced $500 million commitment to revitalizing Detroit neighborhoods. It's really great to see that Rocket Companies and Dan Gilbert disclose this information here because it will stop any rumors or speculations about why RHI and Dan Gilbert might be selling these shares. And of course, it's great to see that Dan will be using this money to help people out. So now that we know that the reason for the sale isn't a negative for the stock, let's get into how the actual conversion and sale of the shares could be a good thing for the stock. The first reason it's good for the stock is that more shares provide more liquidity to the stock, making it more desirable for institutional investors because it's easier to get in and out of trades. The second reason this is good for the stock has to do with Morgan Stanley's block trade that some of you may have heard about. I think knowing this information, it's now safe to say that the block trade was directly related to RHI converting and selling these shares. As we can see from the Form 4, the Class A shares were eventually sold in a private transaction at a price of $24.75. Well, I'm going to make an educated guess here that these shares were sold to Morgan Stanley, and then Morgan Stanley bid up the stock on Monday morning and sold the shares in a block trade at roughly $25.25 per share. This would make Morgan Stanley a quick 50-cent per share profit and almost completely account for the rapid rise and fall of the stock on Monday morning. Now, while this means that the spike in the stock was likely just a one-time event, it does also mean that it's very likely that several institutions bought large amounts of shares above the $25 level, meaning that it's in their best interest that the stock continues to go higher above this level, and this could be a very positive thing for the stock going forward. Finally, the last thing that I want to address is that this will also have an effect on the short interest, at least in the short term, because it artificially increases the shares outstanding and in turn decreases the current percentage of shares that are shorted. This not only means that the likelihood of a future short squeeze is smaller, but it also gives the shorts more ammunition because it means that there are more shares available to short. And this may have actually contributed to part of the continued sell-off on Monday and Tuesday. Overall though, I think this is a good thing for the stock, and it's nice to see that Dan was able to sell some of his shares without the sale having a negative impact on the stock. I hope you guys found this analysis helpful, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Other than that, see you next time and have a great day.